Hey guys, what the fuck is up, you guys? My name is eManDan642, and welcome to the game ranking of this year. Every game I played in 2023. I played a lot less games than I did last year, and then less than the games in the year before that. But I was busier than I was last year, so yeah. I love Kirby. Most of the games are really solid. Squeak Squad is one of the very few exceptions. Not a bad game per se, but the most forgettable and boring Kirby game, except for maybe Dreamland 1 and 2. The levels are boring and easy and uninteresting. They're fun, sure, but there's nothing in this game that makes it worth playing over most other Kirby games. In fact, the next Kirby game, released on the DS, just so happens to be the best Kirby game there is. The new copy abilities are some of the worst in the series. Animal is not that useful, it's only for specific areas. Bubble is only useful if you need to store an item. Ghost is extremely useless. Metal is garbage because it makes you obnoxiously slow. The story is okay and the villains are alright. There are a lot of collectibles in this game, and they are not that useful. Collectibles are really fun normally, but if they aren't fun to get, then why bother? To finish the game, you need to find 5 star seals that are hidden in these treasure chests you find throughout the game. I only found 2 of them during the game, so I had to go back and find the rest of them, which is really annoying. The first ever Metal Gear game. This game is really interesting. Gameplay-wise, it's just a stealth action game, just like the rest of the series. It's very limited, as most games from the 80s are, and it's best played with a guide, as most games from the 80s are. The game is very well made though, and the progression is very good. But there were many times I had no idea what to do or where to go, hence why the guide is necessary. The game has very little dialogue and story, which is a far cry from the extremely narrative-heavy focus of all the games later on. Every person you talk to said like one sentence, then you're off. It was still an enjoyable game that you would definitely enjoy if you're a Metal Gear Solid fan. This is easily the worst 3D Mario game by far. 3D Land is a good game, but it's so bland and basic compared to any other 3D Mario. There's nothing that sets itself apart. It's basically a 2D Mario in 3D format. More accurately, a new Soup game in 3D format. It's solid though, with fun levels, and the special worlds do make up for how generic it was, but it still wasn't all that much. The Tanuki suit was pretty great, and honestly one of my favorite Mario power-ups. When this game was announced, my hopes were low. The last mainline games were Sword and Shield, the worst in the series by far, and this game was announced right when Legends Arceus came out. That game was great, but it was way too soon after. Scarlet and Violet came out, and to my surprise, it was good. It wasn't great, but good. The open world was really fun. It was fun to just roam around and catch Pokemon. The region was open and vast. Honestly, it wasn't too memorable, but still fun. The new Pokemon were iffy to me. There are a couple I like, but most of them were pretty lame, especially the starters. The main campaign is split up into 3 different tasks. The individual tasks are okay. The gyms were fine, but the level scaling was awful. I went to the left first and fought a gym about my level. I went down, then the level jumped from 20 to 40. After that I went to the right and it was normal, but going north it was a big mess. The problem with the campaign being split up like this meant it felt like 3 subplots to no real plot. Team Star was kinda lame. The Titan Pokemon were cool but had missed potential. The end of the game was surprisingly really good with a neat area and actual good plot. Crash Bandicoot is one of the most important series in video game history and is Sony's mascot, so I thought the games would be better, but honestly I wasn't too impressed by them. They were good, but nothing too great. I played the remake, so maybe I would feel differently playing the originals. This game is solid though. The levels are fun and well made for the most part. They are very straightforward, linear, and basic. The game is fun, but it's a pretty basic platformer. This game is very frustrating though. Many difficult levels, but many bullshit ones. The Skybridge levels are the bane of my existence. They are such a pain in the ass. The bad depth perception is my biggest gripe with the game. It can be very hard to judge how far something is, so you just have to risk it most of the time. I'm not a big fan of the physics either. You need to just get used to Crash's movements. This was an enjoyable game, but a handful of levels made it a chore to play at times. Decent improvement over the first game. This game had much better level design, more level themes and locations, and new moves for Crash. Still nothing too great, but decently better. There are better bonus stages. There are purple gems required to beat the game. They are easy to get, but don't add too much. The polar bear stages are more fun than the pig stages from the first. The jetpack stages are alright, but not bad. Overall, almost everything is better in this game. It is a smoother and more enjoyable experience. It keeps that difficulty, but it's much less bullshit and actually fun. Even more of an improvement over the first two, I think the levels were the best in the trilogy in this game. They were the biggest with more differing paths and better bonus sections. I like the time travel theme and different level themes. It's more all over the place than the second game, but still really cool. The level design was even better. They were much more unique with different ideas. There weren't many 2D levels, which I was disappointed by. There were a lot of vehicle levels, but I enjoyed them for the most part. The plane stages were pretty cool. The jet ski stages were cool, the underwater stages were alright, but slow. The motorcycle stages were a pain in the ass though. Controlling Crash was not easy. Tight corners were not possible, especially with the speed boost. This game also had the best boss in the trilogy and the only boss I really enjoyed. That boss is Engine, where you have to control his spaceship and shoot down his giant robot. It's really fun. This game is a major improvement over the first. This game is bigger and better in every way. There is much better stealth and action. It's harder too. It's similar to Metal Gear Solid, but in a 2D format. The map is much bigger with many different memorable locations. The design is even better too. Again, the game is best played with a guide. There are some irritating moments of backtracking and not knowing where to go, but still a lot better than the first. There is much more story too. There are different characters with personalities and backstories. There is a much more fleshed out story that fits in with the later games. There is many important points too, like Big Boss and Gray Fox, that make the game very intriguing if you've already played other Metal Gear Solid games, like I have. The climax of the game is really cool too. It's full of twists and conspiracies, just like the rest of the series. Much less and grand, but still great. This is a really important game in the Metal Gear Solid series, and I highly recommend it to any fan. This is not the type of game I would normally play willingly. A brand new, trendy multiplayer game is usually a game I would stay far away from, but I got Lethal Company because some of my friends did, and I actually enjoyed it quite a bit. You and your crew of up to 4 are working for some intergalactic company, and you have to travel to abandoned planets to retrieve scraps and sell them to the company. There are only a handful of planets currently, and they are all slightly different in design. Each one has a warehouse, facility, whatever, inside where you have to find scraps. The facilities are randomly generated, but they always look basically the same. The layout is different, but it gets very repetitive. Inside the facilities, there are creatures and monsters that will try and kill you. You are limited on time and light, so you have to strategize and work together to get enough scrap to fill the quota without dying. Our strategy consists of someone staying behind on the ship, watching the cameras, and communicating with the rest of the party through walkie-talkies. There isn't a whole lot of depth currently, and I'll admit my party hasn't made it super far, but the game keeps you entertained and keeps you wanting to come back for more. This was the first 3D Sonic game I've ever played, and I enjoyed it. The levels were fast-paced and fun, with only a couple being irritating. The Wisp mechanic was neat, some were fun to use like Drill or Frenzy. The zones were all fun and unique, except the water one. Didn't really like that one. The game was also very short. I don't know if all the home console or 3D Sonic games are all that short, because the only other Sonic games I've played are the classic games, the Rush games, and Mania. All the other Sonic games I've played get on my nerves often, except for Rush, and this game rarely did, so maybe it felt faster. The bosses were also very easy. Again, most other Sonic bosses were not that easy. Even the final boss was not that hard. The big turnoff in this game were the cutscenes. The story was fine. Eggman builds an amusement park and slays aliens, but the cutscenes were painfully unfunny and cringy. You could just skip them, but they're all still there. The dialogue was flat out bad. Gameplay was still very good though. One of the best Sonic games I've played. I just made a review of this game, so watch that. Wonder is easily the best 2D Mario. It is such a new and innovative experience. It offers a lot with new power-ups, badges, and Wonder Flowers. It's totally worth it and objectively better than almost every single game released this year. This game is fucking awesome. I really enjoyed the original Doom, so I figured I would like this one, and I really did. It's fun, bloody, and violent. Going around killing demons is such a blast. The story is straightforward, but very well told. The world is really cool to explore. Both Mars and Hell are awesome. It's challenging, but rewarding. All the weapons are fun to use, and glory killing is always satisfying. There are many secrets to find and challenges to do. This game is a great reboot that improves upon and expands the original. The sixth and final game in the Phoenix Wright series. I plan on someday making a review and ranking of the 6 main games, but I want to play the original trilogy first. This was a great finale to the series. It's big in scale, it has a coherent story across its cases. The foreign turnabout is a solid start. Nothing great, but it gets the job done. The magical turnabout was fun and continued the Grammarly story from Apollo Justice. The Rite of Turnabout was very interesting and unique and offered a lot about Khura'in. Turnabout Storyteller was pretty lame. I enjoyed the Athena and Simon dialogue, but aside from that, it was completely pointless because the final case, Turnabout Revolution, is basically 2 cases on its own. The first part of the case should have been case 4 of the game. Revolution is way too long anyway. It's one of my favorite cases in the entire series, but the first part drags it down a bit, honestly. The rest of the case is great and gives a lot of backstory and development for Apollo. It's a grand and rewarding case and a very satisfying case to close out the series with. This game is often said to be one of the greatest games of all time, and it did not disappoint. Amazing action horror game. I wasn't a fan of the tank controls at first, but I got used to them pretty quickly. It creates a very claustrophobic atmosphere and it works well with the horror aspect. I played the Wii version, which has amazing motion controls where you aim to shoot with the Wii remote. Shooting was quick and seamless. This is the first Resident Evil game I played, so I'm not really sure how the story fits in with this series, but I really enjoyed this game's story. There's a lot going on with Ashley, Los Illuminados, and Las Plagas. It's all really cool. Leon is an awesome protagonist. There's a lot more going on with the story in Leon that I wish was explained more, but that's alright. The atmosphere is also really great. The village area is disturbing and disgusting, dead trees and dead life everywhere, abandoned houses that are falling apart. I like the look of this area. The castle felt like it belongs in an old Dracula story, not something from modern day. The island had different areas in it. I thought the hospital was grotesque with all the experiments. All the maps are so well done and thought out. The game definitely goes up there as one of my favorite games of all time, and I will definitely someday get around to playing more Resident Evil games. In early 2020, I played Final Fantasy VII, and since then it's been a favorite of mine, being in my top 5 favorite games of all time. I don't know why it took me so long to play another Final Fantasy game, but 3 years later, I played 6. This is another amazing JRPG. The story is fantastic. It was a pioneer for video game storytelling. The battle system is fun and engaging. Each player is unique and offers something new to the game. It's a classic masterpiece, one still worth playing today. I already made a review for this game, so I'll keep it short. Amazing game, and just as good as Breath of the Wild. My only issue is that it's basically the same game with new features. Those features are great, but I wish the game as a whole was a new experience. Still amazing and well worth the money. You will get more than your money's worth with time in this game. The world is grand and vast. The story is, in my opinion, better than Breath of the Wild. The shrines are repetitive but still very fun. The progression is rewarding. Best game of the year and possibly the decade. What? Well, that was the games I played for this year. Not as interesting of a list from last year, but hopefully there'll be some more next year. Fuck you.